It is 6:30, and this is the March 22nd meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Prior to coming before you, we met in pre-session to review our cases. Our first order of business is to review the minutes of our meeting in February. Are there any comments by the Commission or a motion by the Commission?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would move that the minutes of the Thursday, February 15, 2018 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting be adopted as written.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Portman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Williford. All in favor, please raise your hand.
Commissioners Williford, Maurer, Haas, Portman, Guerra, Blankenship in favor. None opposed. The motion carries. Okay, very good. Item 4 on the agenda this evening is a public hearing. This is to consider approval of PD-133R8-HC, Magnolia Office Park, that being Savannah Coppell, a zoning change request from Plan Development District Number 133 Highway Commercial to Plan Development District 133 Revision 8 Highway Commercial to attach a detailed site plan to allow 6 one-story office buildings to be located on the south side of State Highway 121, approximately 215 feet west of North Denton Tap Road, at the request of Suha Ventures, being represented by Matt Moore. Mary.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. The first public hearing this evening is on this 5.1 acre tract. It's a vacant piece of property located at the southwest corner of Denton Tap and 121. It's the last parcel of a 87 acre development approved back in 1994. The other portions of this PD did include single-family residential, open space, and the commercial along Denton Tap Road, consisting of where the Legacy Bank, Magnolia Village Retail Strip, and the Deliman Grill are currently located. There were just a brief history on this piece of property. We did have 2 other requests to develop this piece of property for residential, and they were denied back in 2013. The proposal on this PD is for 6 single-story buildings ranging in size from 7,200 square feet to 11,300 square feet. Roughly, they're almost mirror images of one another from going from the center out both directions. A total of 55,000 square feet if they build everything out to the maximum capacity. There is a minimum 80% brick and stone on each elevation. What we are looking at in terms of access on this piece of property, there is a deceleration lane proposed for the most westerly driveway, and there will be 2 driveways. In addition to the 2 driveways, there is a mutual access easement that does wrap around from the Deliman Grill on Denton Tap all the way through the shopping center and the bank to this piece of property. We did received some phone calls and emails from the HOA early on in this process in January. They were concerned about the cut-through traffic for this facility. As you can see, there is no direct connection from this property to the residential. You would literally have to go out onto 121 and come back in. It would be a lot easier for someone to go through the commercial property to get to this site. So we do have a masonry screening wall that is proposed along the rear of this site that will be constructed about 6 foot 6 inches tall. Materials to match the brick that is proposed for this building. One of the items on this piece of property relates to the provision not more than 50% of the required parking located in the front yard. With this combination of buildings, the proposed parking is a split between office and medical office. There's 249 spaces required. There are 249 spaces proposed. They do exceed that percentage in the front yard due to the current configuration and building placement. This is what they're proposing, so they would exceed that number. And the red just illustrates where the masonry screening wall is proposed. In terms of the elevations, there are 3 building types proposed. As I said, most of them will have a minimum of, or all of them, sorry, will have a minimum of 80% brick and stone. There's a stone that'll, 2 different stone veneers, as well as a cast stone. In addition, they'll have a brick, which varies, and it's not one solid shade of red. It'll vary from light to dark. In addition, they'll have metal copings, metal panels as accents. Some of the more taller structures will have glass panels, a spandrel glass to allow more natural sun in. Metal canopies are provided on the building. Both provide shade and sunlight as well as architectural detail. Looking at the landscaping for this site, approximately 25% of the site is landscaped. There's a large water line easement located along 121, in addition to electrical easements and other utilities. So what they are proposing, instead of the tall overstory trees that are typically required in that area, instead of the 19 that are required, they will provide, are proposing to provide 36 ornamental trees. The rest of those overstory trees will be provided elsewhere on site, both on the other side yards and buffer areas. In addition to along the rear of the property line, you can see that they have they plan on extensively landscaping that area. So in addition to the masonry screening wall that will be provided, they'll have live oak trees in that area to provide additional height screening. They will provide trees as well in the parking areas and in and around all the buildings. You can see where there's green. They are also providing some enhanced pavement areas. So they have a paved terrace area, pergola, and benches that you can see are the little brown areas in between buildings 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. In terms of signage on this site, there is a monument sign proposed out along 121. It will have a stone with a cast stone base, and they are proposing to have a metal cabinet with a metal panel with the tenant names, with reverse channel letters and halo illumination. Signage on the buildings themselves will be conditioned to be consistent in style and will comply with ordinance requirements. We did send out notices for this public hearing, 28 within 200 feet and 90 within 201 and 800 feet. We did not receive any written responses back to that. We did, as I mentioned earlier, we did receive some responses earlier on in the process, however. That's the end of the presentation. Staff is recommending approval subject to the following conditions: that there may be additional comments during the detail engineering review, that a plat will be required. Number 3, that all proposed wall signage shall comply with the ordinance requirements and be consistent in style and material, that the masonry screening wall adjacent to the residential shall be constructed prior to the issuance of a building permit, that the applicant and staff explore options to close the gap between the screening wall abutting Magnolia Park, and that the sewer line across the rear of the property be private. The applicant is here as well, in case you have any questions.
Very good. Thank you, Mary. Any questions of staff by the commission? Okay. Is the applicant here to present the case? If I could get your name and address for the record.
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening, Commission. Matt Moore, Claymore Engineering, 1903 Central Drive, Bedford, Texas. Worked pretty diligently with staff over the last couple of months to put this project in this form before you tonight. I think Mary's overall summary of the project is a good overall snapshot of what we're looking to do. We feel like we've got a very complementary use given the adjacent residential neighborhood we have to the south of us and the prime 121 frontage out in front of us. 6 single-story office buildings. We felt like was a good use and good fit for this particular site. We did have some constraints with this site with the long nature of it and the lack of depth to meet some of these landscape requirements set forth in the code. We've tried to work to offset some of those variance requests. Again, trying to soften the common boundary line along the south with a larger amount of live oak trees. We did propose that 6-foot masonry screen wall. We looked at a taller version. We just didn't want it to be real institutional and that extra height. It makes a different feel. So we tried to do that with additional landscape on that southern border. The non-vehicular landscape variance that we're asking for, we probably could have met that if we looked at going to more of a 2-story type option with some of these office buildings. But again, knowing the adjacent residential, we felt like the single story was the better approach and to try and look at other options. So that's why that variance is still before you tonight. Again, we feel like this is a very suitable plan given the property. With that, I would ask for y'all's support and be willing to answer any questions the commission might have.
Very much. Any questions of the applicant by the commission? George?
So did y'all look at any options with having your parking in the back, or the majority of your parking in the back versus in the front?
We wrestled with that. Honestly, given the single-family adjacency, we felt like having the majority of the parking out front along the 121 frontage was probably a little bit of a better approach, or at least that was our mindset at that time. We also, as you can tell, have the building set back from the parking a little bit, trying to create a little softer approach as you come in off of 121 and having some more landscape instead of just having parking, 5 foot of sidewalk, and then a building, right on top of you. We tried to have a little bit more depth there in the pedestrian plaza. I did talk with staff right before this meeting about some of the thoughts about flipping some of these and pushing some of those buildings up. I think that is something that we would be willing to entertain, to create a few larger landscape islands up front and move that 50% requirement to the back. That's something we're not opposed to.
Okay.
It's definitely something we could entertain.
Okay.
Where do you see that realistically happening? Buildings 2 and 5?
2 and 5, yeah. Absolutely.
Any other questions of the applicant by the commission? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. We do have some folks that have signed up to speak on the item. I'll just go down the list. How about Ruth Holder, followed by either Brenda or Bob Weinrich?
Hi, I'm Ruth Holder. Is this the fancy device here where I can put pictures up?
Okay.
If I have a picture to show you guys?
We have a...
Oh,
There we go.
cool.
I think it's missing. Here we go. George, can you slide that down a little bit?
Okay, good. I'll do that in a minute. Okay, I have been a Magnolia Park resident for about 8 years, and my house looks directly at this development. So I'm not opposed to the development. I just have some important issues to discuss. I've been here through the 2 residential proposals as well, so I've seen a lot. Okay, so for example, if you look at this picture, this is actually my fence. And that's the actual access off of Denton Tap into the property. Here's another way of looking at it. So building 5, I believe, is going to sit right here. Mm-hmm. So I get to look at it every day when I drive in. Okay.
Ma'am, and the concern with regards to positioning of Building 5 at the end of the alley,
That's one of them. Okay. And then lastly, these are the 2 bedrooms that my kids sleep in. 1 and 2. That look right at that property. So if you look at the map that the developer provided, okay, the dumpster is located right behind, right here. Okay, so you'll notice the dumpsters are on either side of the actual development. And so it's as close to the residential property as possible. And so what I'm suggesting is that perhaps that be relocated so that it's not adjacent to children's windows. That's my house, and that's my neighbor's house, and she's got bedrooms right adjacent to the dumpster. Okay. All right. Number 2, there was some, and Mary, I know you talked to Rosie Stevens. Could you clarify for me, because you made a reference to some egress that was coming in from the bank, how would that ensure that there would be no traffic coming down this alleyway in back of my house?
I guess what I was referring to is that there is currently access easements all the way from where Deliman's Grill is, going all the way up the Denton Tap, parallel to Denton Tap, when you turn from where the bank is onto this property. So, obviously, it's not like the streets are blocked. Someone could go that way. But the more direct route, I would think, would be to go along the commercial path versus going through the residential area to get to this site.
Well, since we know that there's only one way into this property off of 121, right? All of the other surrounding properties have 2-way access. So all of the other commercial developments along this corner have 2-way access. You do not have 2-way access onto this property unless you're advocating that those that come off Denton Tap go through the bank onto this property. Is that what you're advocating?
Yes.
Okay. Then they also could come off the bank into Magnolia Park and through this alleyway.
No, there's a brick wall.
Okay. No, I have not. Okay. The other question I had is, where is the lighting going to be on this property? Because I couldn't see it on any of these maps.
Okay, so my understanding, and the applicant can correct me if I'm wrong, because we did talk about it, they were not proposing any type of pole lighting. It would all be, on the building with downward lighting. And
So on the front of the building?
Well, there would be lighting on the rear of the building as well, but they would have to comply with our lighting and glare ordinances as well, and then we'll have to provide a photometric study.
Okay.
weren't they pretty much wall sconces, down lighting or?
Standing, correct.
Yeah, because the kids' bedrooms are right here, and if there's lighting on the building, then they're going to have light shining into the, which we don't have right now.
Do we,
Right.
do we have an overlay so you can show us where your house is? Because I'm
Sure.
a little bit confused of where your house is in relationship to
Okay, well,
this
here's the
site.
bank. See the bank?
If we could, Mary, if we could, our presentation's not showing on our screens. John, can you put Mary's presentation back up? Thank you.
And what's your,
The aerial.
Mine is, if you look at the alleyway, which you really can't see on there.
so here's the
You're
alley.
right at
You're either at one corner or the other. You're closest to the bank?
to the right?
Correct, yes, I'm closest to the bank.
So here's
I'm right there, yep.
this one here?
Nope. The large. so
What's
that's-
your the addresses
That's my
are
neighbor,
on
and
there.
the one right next to it, right there.
Yeah, 134.
So we put in an actual gate because of all the potential traffic that could come here, because we have young kids and dogs, and he has dogs as well, that we don't want that traffic to be increased or any of the kids to be,
Well, there won't be any traffic from the site onto the alley at
and
all.
that's good. That's what we needed to know.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so
It's total separation. Total separation.
did you have a question as to where?
No, I was just trying to
Okay.
figure out
And
where
do you
you
have
live.
any other comments?
I had two more. Okay, so we have a bunch of pictures as to what the front of the buildings are going to look like. What is the back of the buildings going to look like? Because that's what we're going to look at every day.
So in our packet, we had elevations submitted to us.
So on this drawing here, you'll see the north, south, east, and west. So, north, south, and then east and west for buildings A and F. Same for buildings B and E, and same thing for buildings C and D. So all four elevations.
Okay, I have building 5.
Which
So I don't have
is-
an A through F.
Let me see, though.
Yeah, it looks like they're lettered versus numbered.
Yeah.
C, D, E, so is it an E?
E. So this center one here,
Okay, and that's the back of the building.
this is the back.
Okay, that's what's back. Okay. Had that question answered?
And then in that image there, I see the wall sconces there.
Okay.
Is that downlighting from the app? It's strictly downlighting? No uplighting? Okay, so it takes care of lighting.
Okay. And then the question is with regard to construction. When construction occurs, is it going to occur in operating hours? Or is it going to be regulated to occur between 8 and 6? Are we going to have guys there at 6 a.m. in the morning?
Yeah, I'll defer to staff. Marcy?
Our ordinance requires that it be done to dusk, basically. Actually, let George do that.
For the engineering department, we restrict any construction Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Okay.
We don't allow construction on Sundays. We do allow it on Saturdays from 9 a.m. to, I believe, it's either 5 or 7.
Okay. And I don't oppose this development because it's a lot better than what we've had before. I'm just trying to represent what at least the folks that live around me, what they want to look at, because that's what we have to live with. Okay. My question is, when you are developing in the summer and we're in Texas.
Ma'am, if you could direct the question to us, please.
Is there going to be any type of water used to reduce the dust from all the construction?
As we understand it, the wall will be implemented first.
Right, okay. And then the last point on the wall. So along Magnolia Park, when it was originally built, you had a 6-foot wall and you have an 8-foot wall. You have the liability of kids that are sitting on top of the 6-foot wall right now. So this is a fairly large wall, and there are a ton of kids that live in Magnolia Park, elementary kids up to high school. What you find a lot is them hanging out at the park with the lake. All right, so I just want to raise that you have the liability, if you only put a 6-foot wall in there, of kids sitting on top of that wall, just like they do near the Delliman's Grill. Okay. So is there any consideration of going to 8 feet?
The ordinance requires 6 feet.
Oh, it
And they have the
requires it?
capstones at up to 7.
Okay. And then the last thing is the landscaping that's been proposed is live oaks. And Magnolia Park has magnolias in every piece of property because it's called Magnolia Park. Could there be consideration, since that wall is going to be constructed only at 6 feet and these buildings are, 24 feet tall? So you got 18 feet of building above the fence line. Is there any consideration of putting in magnolias to match Magnolia Park and better blend this fence and these buildings into the residential properties? Because these, again, are, $700 million homes. And I'm just trying to have you look at what we're going to be looking at from behind. It's different if we were looking at the front of it, but we're all going to be adjacent to the back of this property. So if the magnolias are put in, perhaps instead of just live oaks, it's going to be a more ornamental, aesthetically pleasing look to the back of a property. I think it would blend in better. as a consideration. Pardon me?
Are there any other comments?
I believe so. Just a second. I believe so. Okay. Yes.
Thank you very much. Brenda or Bob Weinrich?
Hello, good evening. I'm Bob Weinrich. This is my wife, Brenda. Our property is on Natchez Trace, and it does back up to the field where the construction will be. And I think our main concern is on the possibility of traffic coming through Magnolia Park, cutting through, using I'll say the rear exit that exits out onto the access road of 121 to gain entrance to the offices. Now, I heard this individual say that it's going to be, quote unquote, a lot easier to cut through the shopping center. And I'm sorry, but I'm not sure I can agree with that, and I don't think there's any evidence to support that. Is there a left turn? Help me out. Is there indeed a left turn off of Denton Tap into that shopping center where the Liberation Coffee is past the entrance to Magnolia Park, or will motorists have to go all the way up through that the 121 intersection, go down and loop around?
No, there's a couple broken back curves there. So you
okay.
have
Are there left turn lanes there off of Denton Tap?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Pretty much right. Yeah, right where the cursor is.
Okay.
Otherwise, it would be very circuitous going all the way around.
Yeah, that's
I mean, this is a difficult piece of property in its location on a one-way frontage road.
Yeah, it's just my concern is people zooming down Natchez Trace by my house, at 40 miles an hour or whatever to get through and around to the property, out the back entrance of our neighborhood to the property. So what I think I'm going to propose to our HOA is that we build a gate on the back exit of our property that's only accessible for residents of Magnolia Park, such that some motorist who's trying to come and cut through our neighborhood to get to that access road, in front of my house and through the neighborhood isn't going to be able to get out the back gate, I think, based on what I'm hearing here.
There would be, we need to visit with city engineer on that one, the traffic engineer on that one. Some fire compliance
Well,
requirements.
they'd still
things
be
like
able to exit
that.
through
Yeah, I
the
know
main
it's strictly an
entrance.
exit, but I see what you're saying about possibly the cut through to swing around through the neighborhood to get into the property, but pretty circuitous, and so okay.
Yeah, that's
our biggest
that's the
concern.
main concern, not so much the aesthetics of the wall and the landscaping. Those are concerns as well, but it's really the traffic cutting through. Huge issue. So.
Okay. Thank you very much. If I could, I'd like, since you're here, how would you, it is a little circuitous driving through the neighborhood, not to say it couldn't get done. The comment was HOA, gate, 21.
One thing that's just looking at this site map that's up here, you don't even see the entrance to Magnolia Park, so you see the distance. So I'm hesitant to think that they're going to have increased traffic coming through their development because of this one.
Personally, if I were driving to this location, I would go through the shopping center parking lot. I wouldn't want to go through a residential neighborhood to get there. Hypothetically, yes, somebody could. I'm going to have to do some research legally if the HOA would be able to put a gate across that. I'm not sure if that's actually public right of way. So that would be something I couldn't answer today.
Okay.
But did that help?
Yeah, it does. I
Okay.
didn't know if there was any. Sue?
Just a follow-up question. Since the bank was constructed on that site, do you know if there was additional traffic through the Magnolia Park subdivision to get to the bank?
I do not. I have not received a complaint about cut-through traffic in Magnolia Park since I've been here.
Thank you.
Is, maybe this is more for Marcy. So, I'm sorry, this George made the comment about some existing dumpsters in the back of the bank, that those are existing.
I was just curious if there had been any issues because it's literally right across from what I can tell.
I see what you're saying.
So if there had been issues with the banks, then maybe we should look at. But if it hasn't been a problem with the bank being there, then one would hope that wouldn't notice an additional concern.
Probably fully enclosed. They're meeting requirements. Okay.
They're required to have a 6-foot wall around it and the gates to be closed. And I think, again, we'd be more concerned if there's any food service anticipated, but seeing that this is an office building, that it's very typical for the dumpsters to be along the fire lane as they are.
Okay. I did hear your comment back. I heard your comment in just a minute. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak for or against the proposed application? I see 3 hands, so we'll go with Coat, and then the young lady, and then the gentleman in the back. And then we'll come back to you, Miss Holder.
Hello, my name is Mark Meyer. I've been in Coppell since 1990. I'm a commercial real estate broker with Henry S. Miller, so I'm familiar with these things. And I'm also the president of the HOA for Magnolia Park. So this has been a hot topic. I know it's zoned commercial. I'm not against the development. I've talked to Mary. I've been out of pocket 3 weeks. I broke some ribs in Costa Rica, so I'm just getting back to work. The 6-foot wall, I believe, is too small. Again, you're going to have kids crawling it and crossing over. I believe 8 foot is the maximum that Coppell requires for a residential fence. I think it needs to be 8 foot. It's not going to make it look institutional at all. The drive-through is a reality. If you don't look at the map, if you don't live there, you don't understand it. But we have traffic through there all the time now. It's not the issue. I know we can't block it off, can't gate it. It's a public right-of-way. I understand that. But we have speed going through there, and there's kids walking to school. There's dogs, people walking dogs all the time. It's a beautiful neighborhood. And if there's a solution I can suggest, maybe they pay for some speed bumps going through there to just that one place. We've thought about putting them in as an HOA, and it's all about money, right? We had to pay $100,000 to fix that wall on the outside for 121, $100,000 out of the HOA because it was starting to crack and we were getting pressure from the city. So, we watch our pennies just like you guys do. If we could get some speed bumps there, I think that would help on the people coming through there having to endure the speed bumps. We would like to cut down on the speed and ensure the safety of our kids.
So you're saying Natchez Trace itself, or is it one of the other streets?
Natchez Trace.
Natchez Trace has the speed?
Yeah, absolutely. If you just look at it on the map, it's a straight shot, and people haul down that street.
So are they going to the exit?
The
exit's pretty hidden.
They go through the exit. They go to their home. I mean, we have teenagers there, and people speed because it's a pretty straight shot. If you take a right and you go out that secret exit, what we call exit, it gets used a ton. We have a security camera there, and so if we could slow down people on Natchez Trace, that would be ideal. I know we can't close it off unless we pay for the streets and all that stuff, and we're not going to do that. But we do have, I promise you, regardless of what you hear, they will use this exit because I use it. It is a secret exit. It's wonderful, okay, and it will be used. You got 249 parking. Let's say you're at 90% occupied. That's 200 cars going to that office and medical, and they're going to look and say, how do I get to this easier every day? I promise you they're going to use it. Dumpsters, I'm sorry, but we need dumpsters not next to our wall. The reason is not because of their positioning or smell from food services. I promise you the public will find a way to dump their fish guts, their trash on that side.
So have you had a problem with the dumpster that's currently there?
Yeah, we smell stuff from time to time from you're talking about the food service, yeah.
From the bank?
There's not the bank, but this is a public office building. People drive to find a dumpster to unload whatever they want to in a free dumpster so they don't have to pay for it. And that's just the reality of dumpsters. I would like to see them in the middle of the property or away from our corner of our houses, and certainly require that they be locked.
In the middle, but along other residential properties.
Like up here, closer to the front of the property.
Oh, okay, the frontage.
This one's not so bad. This, to me, can't happen. But I'd like to at least have some approval or let us look at it or something. That's a concern of mine as well. The ornamental trees, love it that you want to put live oaks. Magnolia trees would be wonderful too. My concern is how big are they? Because live oaks, magnolias, bur oaks, they grow slow. I mean, when we do developments, we require 5-inch caliper. I want some mature trees there. I don't want these little 2-inch caliper little sticks and then go, oh, they'll fill in sometime. Because live oaks grow slow. That's my concern. Work hours only, I'd appreciate it if you'd put a limit at it 6 p.m. I don't mind 7 to 6, but 7 p.m. is right during dinner time. And the beep, beep, beep of all the big machines going would be a concern if my house backed up to there. I'm actually just inside of those back ones, so I'm not backed up to it. I am concerned about pest control. When these other two developments to the west of us were done, the two home developments, we have had a horrendous problem with rats. I mean, a lot of rats. I mean, I've killed 4 or 5 of them in my house, and I'm not even close to that edge of the property. Big ones. I would appreciate it if we have some way of, before they start moving dirt, doing extermination somehow. I don't know how. But when you start moving dirt, I'm going to tell you the rats run, and they'll run right into our neighborhood. I am concerned about the lighting. I'd like to see a little bit more of that and the glare. I'm glad that you have some kind of control on that. I'm very, very concerned about trash. Office buildings create paperwork, and I know some of it gets recycled. But the canal that goes through Magnolia Park, the city doesn't clean that. We have to have it cleaned. The drainage from 121 brings in an incredible amount of trash. We have to have that sucked up by Magnolia Fisheries every 3 years or so. We have them coming out every week, twice a week, to clean and chemicalize that canal because of the drainage and the moss and the stench that gets drained into our neighborhood. Now, I don't know who set that up. It's a drainage from 121. It goes through our property, and then it goes to the city's property where those ponds are. Seems like to me the city should be paying for that canal to be cleaned, but that's not the way it's set up. So we have to pay for it to be cleaned and sterilized all the time. And we have fountains going. Now, when this development happens, it's just to the east of that canal. If the wind picks up, I don't know what to say. I'm concerned about the trash. If there's something we can do about that, I don't know. I believe that's all I've got. I appreciate your time. Any questions for me?
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am? No, it's the fine young lady coming down the steps.
Hello.
How are you?
How are you?
Fine. Name and address for the record?
Francie. It's
Kyle
Parnell and Kyle.
We live 142 Natchez Trace, about the middle of the back alley wall there.
And we don't oppose this. We've opposed what was proposed previously, if I could say that. But my biggest concern, I'm in agreement with what a couple have already said. If you're going to already go to the expense, trouble, and time to build a 6-foot wall, to please consider an 8-foot wall. You'll already have people out there. If it's that much more cost, I don't know what the cost differentiation would be. Maybe our HOA would kick in a little, but that would make a big difference for security, for vision if I'm out on my back patio, and would help obscure things I don't want to see. But I realize they have a right to exist, and I can't pretend that they're not there. But an 8-foot wall for security, I think, would be great. And I'll reinforce, that's the most important thing to me. I'll reinforce what they said real briefly about the dumpster, which is we own some rental properties in Grapevine, and we had a dumpster there. So I had a personal relationship with the dumpster. And it's true. All of a sudden, people will just drive up with a refrigerator in the middle of the night and leave it there. But, of course, that'll be the concern of the people that have the dumpster, not my concern. I won't have to go remove it. But people sometimes tend to do the strangest things like that. But I'm just asking for 8-foot wall for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Just very quickly, and I may have gotten a little too late, but there are going to be 2 openings from the service road to 121
There's
on the
2
north side.
proposed.
Is that correct?
There's 2 proposed.
And they'll be good and wide, hopefully. Because I say that because, and I'm kind of curious, well, not really my direct responsibility, but it might affect us in getting out the exit into 121, which is only, of course, eastbound. And that is that there's going to be a slowdown of traffic in that lane that's right next to the front, to the north side of the property along there. And we have to, like if we're going to Grapevine using that intersection, particularly in the morning, I guess that's because I normally leave in the morning, but to go over to Grapevine. But it's a fight sometimes to get over to the left lane to make a U-turn to get back up on the toll road there.
That's enough,
So anyhow, keep it short. That's it basically, and I think maybe a new traffic study needs to be made if that's possible.
Well,
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. It looks like from the plan, there's a 30-foot drive and a 24-foot drive.
Good.
There is a deceleration lane planned on the first drive.
Thank you.
The first drive has decel. Okay. Thank you. You bet. Ms. Holder, final comments?
Yes. And solely with regard to traffic, because we've lived there she's lived there longer than I have. What you have is you have the light at 121 and Denton Tap, and you have all those new houses that came in that are now on that same street. So what you'll find is essentially when people are trying to go home for the evening or come in for the day, is you can come in on Denton Tap, and there's a light right at Magnolia Park. Mm-hmm. Then you can go farther down Denton Tap, and you can wait to turn left to get into Dellyman's Grill as all the oncoming traffic is coming down Denton Tap. You don't have a light. Most people don't wait to turn left there. So your 2 choices for access to this property is A, wait at the light at Denton Tap to turn into Magnolia Park and go down my alleyway, or you have to access it coming from 121 down that access road. Those are your only 2 access points for 249 cars in and out all day. So when it's really heavy in the morning and in the evening, if on 121, that access road, you have all those new homes that have come in, okay, people are going to say, I don't want to get out on 121 and just sit there at that light, because I do that all the time. I make a choice to go to Denton Tap and out because I can do it 3 to 4 times faster than if I wait at the light at 121, because it backs up so badly. So when you add another 250 cars, what are their choice going to be? Their choice might be to go through the bank, but then what are they going to do? They're going to go all the way to the Denton Tap Light. Maybe. Or they're going to go down my alleyway to get to the light.
There won't be any access to your alley. There will be a brick wall separating the properties.
They can go to the bank and to the access road, right?
They will not be able to do that. There will be a fence, a wall, a brick wall.
Okay, so they can't exit from the bank onto the...
No.
At all.
Correct? Staff?
When you leave the property, you're going to get on the 121 service road.
Okay,
and
that's
you
one
can go
exit.
north or south, or you can have full access going that way because you can go north, go up on the access and take a left, or you can go east or south. So I can't. I'm not seeing that circuitous route to come all the way back up.
The only thing
way.
that someone can do from that yellow property is go on to the 121 access road or the bank.
Right.
The only two things they can do.
Or as
Can't drive.
well, I suppose you could do anything, but as intimated, you could drive through the neighborhood. Maybe you close the exit there at 121 off of Waverly Lane altogether, so that can't happen.
But to exit the property, you couldn't. You only have access to 121.
Yeah, true, right. So it's easier to get to 121 from the property as you exit the property. That's the easiest thing to do. Than to, if you're the driver, then to drive through all the different sites, the hook U-turns and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's easier to go through the far western drive if you're going to make the U-turn at 121. So,
This will become a clog. There's no question this will be a clog. So the easiest thing is to come through Magnolia Park, come right here,
Ours are not
go
being
out this
recorded.
back alley, right here, and then go to your office.
Yep.
It's just a fact.
Okay. Do
Mr.
you
Meyer?
have any other comments?
No, and the only concern is, since we live where we live, and there's all the schools are right there and all the kids are walking, there are cars going through there too fast all the time, that we have to whistle to slow them down. And if you increase the traffic, there's more liability for potential injuries.
Okay.
It's a very densely populated dogs and children in that area.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak for or against the proposed application? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. George, question for you? George Marshall, that is.
Yes, sir.
So,
The developer.
okay, we'll come back to the developer, yeah. So I got a question for George here. So there's the comment about the perceived cut-through, or maybe it's a reality. So maybe an observation by staff on what's going on currently. But to me, it seems like the options are, if you want to limit that, you close that access point at 121 altogether. And that'll end it.
Right. That would definitely end any possibility.
Yeah,
I can't close public streets. So
that's not a public street. That's just.
I don't know for sure.
Okay.
I need to, like I said, I need to do some research to find out. Normally, like the HOA president said, if they're going to close a public street, they actually have to take ownership of that the entire neighborhood. So.
True. Yeah.
Not the entrance.
And so I presume.
Right. So I needed, like I said, I need to do some research to find out if we could gate off that driveway. There's another subdivision that was built and it was provided emergency access, but they provided a gate across it, and so the fire department can access it that way. But I would be hesitant to only allow access for Magnolia residents. It would have to be a gate that's locked and only utilized for emergency purposes. But like I said, I need to do research on what can and can't happen there.
So questions for George by the commission?
George, Waverly Lane stubs into 121.
Well,
That's the drive we're talking about. There's just an exit only drive right where she's got the arrow.
Okay, that
It may
Waverly
or may not
Lane
be
loops
private.
around, and off Waverly Lane, there's a short stub that ties into 121.
but a car can go Waverly Lane, take that stub to get on 121. Now, the people using that, are they from Louisville, Western Coppell, Eastern Coppell, or are they Magnolia Park residents?
Today, they would probably be Magnolia Park residents.
Okay. So if the HOA wants to shut off that access, aren't they the ones who need to go to TxDOT and get that permission to change the public street area there?
They'd have to talk with the city as well. Like I said, I need to do some research. It's not just a TxDOT issue. It's an access thing for the fire department. This subdivision has beyond that point. It has one point of access, and the fire department is always concerned about if there's a fire and they have to shut down the street. How are people going to get in and out during that emergency?
So there's an engineering answer to why that stub exists and can't be closed.
Correct.
Okay, that answers the question.
But it's a divided entry into the neighborhood. So technically, you could be on the other side. The concern is if the access into the neighborhood is totally locked down, there's no way to get in or out from.
Other than that, there's only one way in and one way out of the neighborhood.
But because it's divided, right, you have the other side of the street. Okay.
It's not coming up.
And then there was another comment, George, regarding drainage. If there's some drainage that's shedding from the road through the neighborhood to the pond, or is that coming from East and West Haven that way?
So I think the concern about the drainage is just an ongoing problem that Magnolia Park has for that drainage channel that their developer chose to install and take ownership of when the development was built. The state law requires any property owner to accept water that naturally goes to their property. They can't dam it up and divert it. And so when this development came through, they decided to channelize it in that location and come through there. Along the 121 frontage road, there are several inlets just to the inside the deceleration lane area.
Mm-hmm.
There is one inlet that drains to that drainage channel. Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but most of the property drains to the frontage road and then more towards the east into the frontage road inlets. There was a stub for drainage off near the 130 Natchez Trace location, but that was provided during the construction of the development.
So this site would drain mostly to 121, but whatever, it would be taken care of during engineering design.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So the developer has to, or the developer of the property, they have to maintain natural drainage ways.
That's right.
They got to drain where it naturally drained originally. When Magnolia was built, they had a drainage area map. They defined how this property was going to drain in its general directions, and so that they have to follow that. It was all planned for when it was originally came through.
And drainage problems that exist today is just something that the neighborhood is taking on because of the way that the community was designed.
Correct.
Okay. Then with regards to speed bumps, that would be at the discretion of the city engineer?
Correct.
For
The
install
city
and
actually canceled the road hump policy about 3 years ago. We no longer install them in city streets.
At one time, did this community have a gated entry, or was it always open? It never had gated?
I wasn't here when it was built, but I believe it was always open.
Okay.
We've been asked, what would it take to gate it? But the answer is they would have to take ownership of all their public streets.
Okay, so that's already been explored.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions of George by the commission? Thanks, George.
Thank you.
And then, so Mary, it's a couple of questions for you regarding the wall, the 6 versus 8 foot. The requirement ordinance is 6 feet.
Yes, sir.
Could it go up to 8 feet?
Yes, sir, if the applicant, or if you made that a condition.
Okay. The city's not opposed.
We're not
being
opposed to
8
it.
foot, but
You know,
it's
they
not a
meet the
requirement.
minimum requirements, so they're going at 6'6" with, I think, a 7 foot at the capstones. So 8 is not a requirement, but it is possible.
Okay. And then with regards to the dumpsters, have we had any complaints from the dumpster there situated there by the existing bank?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
That would probably go to
But that's something
code
that
enforcement.
we can check.
We could look into that.
Okay. And then with regards to potential relocation of dumpsters, could there be any other location to relocate? Like, for example, the one on the far western, the western one, could that be relocated on the side there?
basically at the end of the parking. It'd be kind of in front, but could it be moved up to that area on the side, fully enclosed?
Unless you're the guy that lives in that lot.
I'm sorry?
Unless you're the family that lives in that lot.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
You know, there's residences pretty much wherever you're looking.
Yeah. And from a planning perspective, we'd rather have those to the
We'd
rear
rather
of
have
the
them-
property rather than in the front.
Correct.
Okay.
They will be screened. I'm sure that there will be gates. I'm sure they would
Okay.
not want to speak for them, but prefer to lock them and unlock them when their pickup is coming.
And then as it relates to landscaping, live oaks versus magnolias.
We'd have to see. I'm not sure if that's in our landscape plant palette.
Magnolias are not on our plant palette, so they would not be able to do that for required tree.
Okay.
For sure. I mean, if they want to do an accent or something, but
Okay.
it has been taken off.
And then the minimum caliper size is the proposed, the 5-inch, is that, or 3-inch is the minimum acceptable? Okay. Any other questions of staff by the commission? All right. Any questions of the applicant by the commission? If we could, Matt?
My only question was the openness to going to an 8-foot wall, if that's...
Yeah, and I probably
Something
poorly
you
explained that when I was here originally. It is a 6'6" tall wall in its current design. Each column goes up to 7 feet. We felt like that was a better approach with the amount of landscaping that we had proposed along that southern boundary in lieu of just throwing up a big 8-foot wall. To us, it felt better with the design that we have. That's why we proposed it in the form that we did. Because again, we have live oaks on 22-foot centers, which I think your parks department said was about as close as we could do it to try and create that screen with the canopy. And we chose that species for that reason, to try and create more of that evergreen and drought tolerant type material to be that screen to the residential.
Okay.
And that's, I think, just to clarify, they have, from the staff, they have moved a lot of those trees that we spread out and maybe on 121 to the back of the lot due
Correct.
to the easements, and then so they're actually exceeding
Exactly.
what and those are actually pushed back to provide
They've got-
separation.
Right. So they've got almost double the amount of trees that would normally go back there.
Okay. Any other questions of the applicant?
What are the size of those trees?
Mary?
I believe a minimum 3 inches is what's required.
Caliper? Okay. So any other questions of Matt by the commission? Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, discussion by the commission? As I went through the comments and the staff responses, I mean, I'm comfortable with the majority of the things. George is going to take a look at the access there to 121 and the implication there with regards to that potential cut through the neighborhood. Speed humps not allowed anymore. The wall lighting is a down lighting. To me, that was a non-issue. Magnolias is not on the palette, so live oaks and the way that the live oaks were proposed to be positioned. Dumpsters, toward the rear of the building versus in the front along 121. Staff will check on the complaint situation there, if there's any with regards to existing complaints from the bank, how that might have an effect there. The applicant is willing to move buildings 2 and 5 to meet the requirement of the 50% parking along the front. The minimum caliper is a 3-inch requirement. Pest control, don't know how to handle pest control. When East Haven and West Haven went in, they moved a lot of folks, a lot of wildlife out of there probably, so that's probably some of that. Probably a local thing that you have to handle there. Lighting, not a concern. Trash. Dumpsters, the dumpsters are enclosed, fully enclosed with gates.
I think the proposal as presented and the willingness of the applicant to move the buildings as it relates to parking, to me, satisfies the requirements for me. I do appreciate that the staff's going to take a look at a few things, both traffic and complaint-wise. I'm comfortable as the proposal is proposed, but that's just my opinion. Any other comments from staff, the commission?
Do we need to add an additional condition about the 50% parking?
I think we do. We can do that. Any other comments by the commission? Is there a motion by the commission?
Get me? Okay. Let me, where my notes go. I move that we approve case number PD-133R8-8C Magnolia Office Park, Savannah, Coppell, subject to the 6 staff conditions listed in the report, with the addition of another condition that the site meet the 50% parking restriction for front-facing parking with the final site plan.
An amended motion by Commissioner Wilfer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Guerra. All in favor, please raise your hand.
Commissioners Williford, Mauer, Haas, Portman, Guerra, Blankenship in favor. None opposed. The motion carries.
I had closed the public hearing, but when this application goes before the City Council, there'll be another opportunity to voice the comments there. So, thank you very much. Okay, our final item is item 5 on the agenda is to consider approval of rescinding ordinance number 91500-A-718 for case number S-1262-LI, that being driver select, which would no longer allow the occupancy of the existing 153,000 square foot office/warehouse building for an internet-based car sales and ancillary uses, that being minor car repair, car storage, and offices on approximately 8.7 acres of land located at 100 South Royal Lane at the request of MLRP 100 Royal Limited Partnership. Marcy?
Yes, Chairman, Planning Commission. As you remember, per your recommendation, City Council did approve an SUP for this car sales and approved a SUP for that storage lot off-site, one being on Royal Lane, the other one being on the Fellowship Church property. Staff did receive notification that Driver Select was not going to lease this facility at the Royal Lane, and so the building owners formally requested that this SUP be rescinded or repealed. When we go to City Council next week, the ordinance for the ancillary lot we're recommending that be denied, as well as this SUP be rescinded. So staff is recommending the rescindance of ordinance number 91500-A718 for case number S-1262-LI, which is Four Seasons Lot 1. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Marcy, if Driver Select decided to change their mind, have to come through the process again? Or
Yes.
would it be I guess since we're rescinding the ordinance altogether,
Right.
it could not be administrative or anything?
Yeah, the owner, because it was an SUP, the owner asked that it go back to straight LI, so they have more opportunities to lease the property.
Any other questions of staff? Okay. This is not, do we need?
It is a public hearing.
Okay,
But
there's no public hearing, but if there's no discussion by the commission, I'll entertain a motion.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I will move to
Actually-
rescind S-1262-LI Driver Select Four Season Edition Lot 1.
Hang on a second. So there's a little typo in the
Yes, but
meeting agenda, but according to staff, this is a public hearing. So if I could, let me open the public hearing if there's anyone who'd like to provide comment for or against the proposed modification or the rescinding of the ordinance. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and then entertain your motion. Glenn?
So moved.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Portman. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Blankenship, all in favor, please raise your hand.
Commissioners Williford, Mauer, Haas, Portman, Guerra, Blankenship in favor. None opposed. The motion carries.
Okay, that
takes care of all the items on the agenda. I would like to make a public acknowledgement regarding, as you may have seen in the paper, Ken Griffith, our city engineer, is retiring. Director of Public Works, he's retiring after 28-plus years of service to our community. Ken's been very instrumental to what we have here in Coppell and how it stands today, and, just wanted to acknowledge his contributions to our fine community. So, Ken, if you're out there, thank you very much. Well done, and best of luck in your retirement. So, with that, I will close our Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. The time is 7:35.